Maurice Coleman, welcome to this interview for the project through ShapingEDU for our Are We There Yet project. To set the context, we are documenting learning success stories as well as the challenges learners have faced as well as instructors have faced during the pandemic. We're going to be talking to you at both levels, since you not only are an ACE trainer as far as I'm concerned out there in library land, but also a student who went back and got a degree during the pandemic online. So the questions will bounce back and forth between those two contexts, and we'll just have some fun with this. Let's start off with you just giving the broadest possible summary of what you experienced in that first month when the pandemic hit and you as a trainer had to suddenly say, everything now is online. What did that mean to you and the learners you serve?
We had to ramp up what we were already doing. Our library system already offered things that were synchronous, asynchronous, et cetera, live and virtually in order to cut down travel costs, et cetera. So we were already doing some of that. The pandemic just essentially threw a whole lot of fertilizer onto that. We had to grow and bloom. We had to do more of it. Our state had already purchased Zoom accounts, so we started scheduling our meetings via Zoom. Someone's still doing stuff every week via Zoom or Microsoft Teams. So I don't want to use the P word, but we shifted to doing more of the online stuff.
At a time when so many people have struggled with online learning, making that initial jump where it was emergency remote learning rather than anything else because they really were flying by the seat of their pants. What were some of the things you noticed at an emotional level with your learners when they suddenly found we're not going to be physically face-to-face sitting across the table from each other learning anymore? Now we're at home.
The toughest part was the social aspect of learning, that it was harder to do. You can do it sort of publicly, sort of, kind of. You can do it in chat, sort of, kind of. You can have people look at each other's face, sort of, kind of. And just getting used to trying to recreate an online community when they were used to just having a naturally occurring face-to-face community.
Let's focus on that social side of it just a little bit more here. I know you because we worked together for quite a while now, and we've actually done some projects together. And I know one of the things that makes you the trainer you are is you really care about people and you set a welcoming environment for them even before any session starts. And you carry that over after the session ends, so learners will come back to you with any questions they have. What are a couple of the tricks you picked up moving totally online that carried that ability to make people comfortable and to deal with the emotional side of learning that you might not have anticipated?
Force them to talk at the very beginning of what you're doing. Say, all right, here's me, here's my stuff. The traditional stuff you do because you have to sort of establish your credibility. Once you've done that, the key is to get them involved. I have, especially during the pandemic, any online presentation I'm doing, I have a question at the beginning. It's essentially an icebreaker. It's, where are you from? Why are you here? That does two things. Someone gets people using the interactive portions of whatever it is. So if you're using a platform that has a whiteboard, put your stuff on a whiteboard. The answers don't matter. It's the engagement that you're creating. That's what matters. It's the end game. It's not what people say, even though you can pick up very cool things and key things what people say, but really the idea is to get their brains involved. Okay, this is how I have to talk. This is how I have to solicit information or riff on things or add to the conversation.
Have you seen your own facilitation skills change in any way as a result of doing almost everything online rather than doing some of it online and some of it face-to-face over the last few years?
Is creating more engagement, is asking questions of the learners. I do that anyway. That's naturally what I do, but I really make sure I do it on an online event. That way they really are engaged, because it's hard. When you're in a room, it's very different. You can read the room, read body language, etc. You have none of that when you're presenting online.
You and I, for a long time, have bandied around the term trainer, teacher, learner, implying that without all three of those things, we are not very effective.
Yep.
I ask you to separate out those roles temporarily if this works for you. Say, as a student, what does Maurice Coleman student want to say to Maurice Coleman trainer who's been out there for years in terms of saying, try this as a result of what I've experienced as a student?
Communicate more, like even more communication. I will say what influenced me is very recently. I think during the pandemic, when I did presentations for people, when I do the notes, I encourage communication. I put my email address on every single note page. So someone prints out, there's my email address. There's how to contact me via social media. There's my Google Voice number. Call me if you need to. I mean, it's encouraging contact, and at least strive for more communication. No one's perfect, but strive for more communication. I think that's what Maurice, the student, would tell Maurice, the trainer. Do even more communication.
Now let's flip it. What does Maurice, the trainer, want to tell Maurice, the learner, based on what he's observed in his role as a trainer, watching himself struggle, if you struggled at all in your online learning?
Yeah, give yourself a break. It's hard for everybody. It's really hard. And that's, as a trainer, you also, I think, have to say that sometimes to people, that, in doing equity, diversion, inclusion, and justice training, it's hard. And a lot of times you have to remind people that the hard work, it's worth it, but it's hard work. This is not going to be easy. This is not take this thing down. Okay, here it is. There's no silver bullet. There's no magic spell. It's a lot of hard work. And as a trainer, telling people that it's going to be hard and that it's okay if it's hard, you're going to struggle, and giving them a chance to struggle and not expect perfection. They can reach for it, but not expect perfection. Okay.
We have had a fair number of conversations on your podcast, Use for Training, as well as personal conversations about what we saw at the beginning of the pandemic, with people saying, oh, we can hardly wait to get back to normal. And from my point of view, as I've said to you so many times, I was most impressed with colleagues early on who said, we don't want to go back to quote unquote
normal sucked.
Exactly.
That's what it was. The normal wasn't accessible to everyone. Being digital is more accessible, especially it's highlighted the work that ShapingEDU is doing with digital access. We discovered during the pandemic that cheaper, faster, reliable internet access is electricity. It is a necessity to do everything now. So that stuff, I think, is very important. The pandemic taught us that internet access, affordable internet access that crosses all of the digital divides, is necessary for this country to move forward.
As we move toward a wrap up of this, any other advice you have for people that are struggling with learning or struggling with teaching and learning facilitation to make it easier to create a better future for them and the people they work with?
Give yourself a break. Read some stuff, give yourself a break, and say, I haven't figured it out. Do I know anyone who can? And reach out to Paul, reach out to me, reach out to any of the colleagues that you see. I would suggest, if you see someone who's doing something really cool, talk to them. Hey, how are you doing that? Spend 5 minutes. Yeah.
Last question for you, Maurice. What, if anything, have I not asked you that you think is important for us to be covering right now?
Try it out. It might work. It might be brilliant, or it might not work, and you learn from it. So don't be afraid of failure, and don't say no without a reason.
Thank you, Maurice Coleman. Looking forward to seeing you again soon on TS for Training. Look forward to seeing you again in anything that we can lure you into at ShapingEDU.
All right.
Really appreciate for everything you said with us this afternoon. Take care.